We picture cannons, uniforms, and brothers fighting each other. But behind all that was a side of history few people talk about, one filled with strange moments, lost inventions, and forgotten heroes. There was a soldier who fought in over 400 battles but never made the headlines. A rifle that could fire 7 shots without reloading, rejected by the military before it changed everything. One of the bloodiest fights? It all started over a pair of shoes. And then there was the eagle, yes, a real eagle, that flew over the battlefield and became a symbol of hope. So why don't we hear about these stories? Who decided which parts of the war got remembered and which got buried? Before we dive in, if you're into untold history and strange true stories, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see the Civil War. Now, let's uncover the 10 most bizarre events that history has almost forgotten. 10. What was really behind Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation? The Emancipation Proclamation is often seen as a moment when the U.S. clearly chose to end slavery. But the real story is more complicated. The Civil War started in 1861, yet President Abraham Lincoln didn't issue the Emancipation Proclamation until January 1, 1863. This delay raises questions. If the war was about ending slavery, why wait? And what if the war had ended earlier? Keep watching to get the answer to that question. From the beginning, the war wasn't only about slavery. It was also about whether the southern states could leave the U.S. and form their own country. Some states, like Mississippi and Texas, clearly said they were fighting to keep white people in power. But even the North wasn't fully against slavery. States like Kentucky and Maryland stayed in the Union but still allowed slavery. Lincoln's proclamation didn't free all enslaved people. It only applied to states that were fighting against the Union, not to loyal states that still had slavery. So why did he issue it? By 1863, Lincoln saw that freeing enslaved people could hurt the South's economy and help the North win. Many black people also joined the Union Army after being freed. Lincoln's personal views on race were also troubling. In 1858, he said he didn't support equal rights for black people. He didn't believe they should vote or hold public office. So while he was against slavery, he didn't believe in full equality. This makes the Civil War harder to see as a simple fight between right and wrong. The North also had racism, and Lincoln's decision to free slaves came 2 years into the war. It was both a moral choice and a smart move during a hard war. If the war had ended sooner, slavery might have stayed. That's why this part of history still matters today. 9. The story of Old Abe, the Civil War's most famous eagle. Old Abe wasn't just a mascot. He was a symbol of pride, courage, and survival. While many know about the soldiers who fought during the Civil War, fewer know about the bald eagle who flew with them. Known as the Eagle of the 8th Wisconsin, Old Abe became one of the most legendary animal figures in American military history. His story starts in 1861 with a simple trade and ends in a place of honor that continues to inspire today. It all began in Wisconsin when a Native American man from the Chippewa tribe captured a young bald eagle in the northern woods. That eagle was eventually traded to a soldier named Daniel McCann in exchange for a bushel of corn. From there, the eagle made his way to Company C of the 8th Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry. The men named him Old Abe after President Abraham Lincoln. But this wasn't just a novelty. They took him with them to war. Old Abe quickly became more than just a mascot. He followed his regiment through drills, perched beside them during marches, and even accompanied them into battle. Soldiers said he behaved more like a loyal dog than a wild bird. His presence brought a sense of unity, and over time, he became a symbol of the entire regiment's fighting spirit. When the 8th Wisconsin went into battle, Old Abe was at places like Corinth and Vicksburg. As the gunfire began, he would take flight, soaring above the smoke and chaos. Witnesses from both the Union and Confederate sides reported seeing him circling high in the sky, sometimes climbing so far he nearly disappeared. Even in the middle of war, soldiers paused to watch him fly. Despite the danger, Old Abe survived 37 battles. He was only injured once when a piece of shrapnel grazed his wing during the siege of Vicksburg in 1863. After the war, he didn't return to the wild. Instead, he became a living emblem of the sacrifices made. The state of Wisconsin honored him with a home in the Capitol building, where he was fed raw meat daily and cared for as a war veteran. When Old Abe died in 1881, people mourned. But his legacy didn't fade. He was preserved by taxidermists and put on display in a pose that showed his fierce spirit. In 1904, a fire destroyed part of the Capitol, but Old Abe survived. Today, he stands proudly in the Wisconsin Veterans Museum, surrounded by the same flags that once flew into battle beside him. His image still tops the Wisconsin State Civil War Memorial, a bronze eagle with wings outstretched, looking over the city of Madison. He may be long gone, but Old Abe's story continues to fly high. Stay with us because it gets better. 8. The hidden cost of Civil War firepower. When it comes to Civil War combat, the image of deadly close-range musket fire dominates popular memory. But the truth is more complicated and far less efficient. Both Union and Confederate armies faced serious challenges with accuracy. According to Union ordnance reports, it took roughly 240 pounds of gunpowder and 900 pounds of lead to eliminate just one enemy soldier. That's thousands of bullets fired for every fatal shot. Why was it so inefficient? For starters, the standard-issue rifle musket was a muzzle-loading weapon that demanded time, precision, and calm, qualities often in short supply during battle. On top of that, many regiments were quickly assembled with minimal training. Soldiers simply didn't have the marksmanship skills to make their shots count. This led to a logistics system that valued volume over accuracy. Quartermasters didn't expect soldiers to hit their targets, they just needed to keep them firing. The focus wasn't on sharpshooting, but on sustaining a wall of smoke and lead. This reality challenges the modern belief that Civil War battles were deadly because of highly effective weapons. In truth, it was industrial-scale supply and mass fire, not precision, that defined the battlefield. 7. Racism wasn't just a Southern problem. It's easy to assume the Civil War was a battle between a racist South and a progressive North, but history tells a different story. During the 1860s, systemic racism was deeply rooted on both sides. Black Americans were denied citizenship, voting rights, and access to political office across the entire country, not just in the Confederacy. At the start of the war, slavery wasn't the main focus. The North's goal was to keep the Union together, not freeing enslaved people. In fact, if the South had stayed in the Union, the war might have been avoided altogether. Many Northern industries depended on cheap Southern cotton, and businesses profited from the slave economy without ever owning slaves themselves. Even Union soldiers, those fighting against the Confederacy, often held the same racist beliefs as their enemies. Some Northern slave states like Kentucky and Delaware remained loyal to the Union while still allowing slavery. For the first 3 years, the war was more about stopping Southern independence than ending human bondage. The truth is, while the South fought to preserve slavery, the North fought to preserve the Union. The moral clarity came later, and only after years of bloodshed forced a shift in purpose. 6. Native alliances and Union atrocities, a complicated legacy. While the Civil War is often framed as a fight between freedom and oppression, Native American involvement reveals a more complicated truth. Many Native nations, especially in the Indian Territory, now Oklahoma, sided with the Confederacy. Cherokee General Stand Watie was the last Confederate commander to surrender in 1865. Other indigenous leaders, like Creek Colonel Daniel McIntosh, also held high ranks in the Confederate military. Their reasons weren't rooted in support for slavery, but in survival. After years of broken treaties and U.S. land seizures, some tribes saw an independent South as a better bet for sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Union, often celebrated for abolishing slavery, was actively committing atrocities against Native people. Union generals who fought in the Civil War, like George Armstrong Custer, later led brutal campaigns in the West. Native villages were destroyed, treaties ignored, and civilians massacred. Some black soldiers, later called Buffalo Soldiers, were used to fill out Union ranks in these Western operations. While it's important not to make direct comparisons, the U.S. government's violent campaigns against Native populations share unsettling echoes of other historical examples of imperial expansion and forced removal. For many Native Americans, Union victory didn't bring freedom, it brought more war. 5. Unexpected triggers of major battles. The American Civil War's most pivotal engagements were not always sparked by grand strategy or deliberate confrontation. In fact, two of the most consequential battles, Gettysburg and Antietam, originated from surprisingly mundane beginnings, underscoring how chance and circumstance could escalate into massive bloodshed. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought from July 1st to 3rd, 1863, and later heralded as the turning point of the war, began not as a planned clash, but as a logistical errand. General Henry Heth's Confederate division approached the Pennsylvania village simply to search for footwear. Rumors had spread of shoe stockpiles in Gettysburg's stores. Exhausted and barefoot after a grueling march, Confederate troops entered the town expecting minimal resistance. Instead, they collided with Union cavalry under General John Buford. This accidental contact escalated rapidly into a full-scale engagement, culminating in 3 days of brutal combat and over 50,000 combined casualties. The Battle of Antietam, Sharpsburg, on September 17, 1862, began with an equally improbable twist. Confederate officer Captain Robert Chilton had wrapped General Robert E. Lee's detailed invasion orders, Special Order 191, around 3 cigars. The bundle was lost and later discovered by Union Corporal Barton Mitchell in a Maryland field. This intelligence coup revealed Lee's division of his forces, emboldening the usually hesitant Union General George McClellan to strike. The resulting battle produced the bloodiest single day in American history, with more than 22,000 casualties. Though tactically inconclusive, the Union's relative success gave Abraham Lincoln the political momentum needed to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. The story doesn't stop here. It goes deeper into the history of the Walker siblings. Stay tuned. 4. The Walker siblings. Resilience and reconciliation. Jack and Jasper Walker, brothers from Reidsville, North Carolina, emerged from the horrors of war as symbols of resilience and unity. Both enlisted in the 26th North Carolina Infantry and faced the devastating fury of Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. Struck by shrapnel within minutes of each other, they each suffered catastrophic leg injuries and underwent crude amputations using unsterilized bone saws. Captured during the Confederate retreat, Jack was imprisoned at Fort Delaware, while Jasper endured the harsh conditions of Camp Chase. Upon release, the brothers returned home and adapted to life with prosthetics, custom cork legs fitted with articulated knee joints that allowed them to walk, work, and even dance. Their most remarkable moment came in 1868, when Jasper's prosthetic leg snapped on his wedding day. Jack, already in attendance, removed his own artificial limb and helped his brother strap it on. Jasper completed the ceremony, literally standing on his brother's support. The event, dubbed the Wedding on Borrowed Legs by local papers, became a powerful symbol of the war's physical toll and the deep bonds forged through shared sacrifice. Together, Jack and Jasper opened a general store, becoming respected civic leaders who embodied the post-war spirit of perseverance and reconciliation. 3. Cultural and political divides leading to war. Abraham Lincoln's election in 1860, despite not appearing on Southern ballots, alarmed many in the South who felt politically powerless as Northern populations surged due to immigration. This act increased the cultural divide. The South remained rural, grounded in agriculture and generational ties to the land, while the North industrialized with factories and cities. Debates over slavery, tariffs, and states' rights further pushed Southerners to question their place in the Union. Many Confederates, who descended from early American revolutionaries, saw themselves as defenders of the original ideals of liberty. Notable figures like Patrick Henry's grandson and Robert Tyler Jones, grandson of a U.S. president, fought for the South. Confederate General Lewis Armistead, related to the hero of Fort McHenry, even clashed with his friend Union General Hancock at Gettysburg. To many Southerners, secession seemed lawful. Vermont and Texas had previously left and rejoined the Union. 2. The outbreak of war and Southern motivations. After Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, 7 Southern states quickly seceded from the Union. They feared Lincoln would end slavery, which they saw as vital to their economy and way of life. When Lincoln sent supply ships to Fort Sumter in South Carolina, one of the seceded states, Confederate forces responded by opening fire. This attack marked the beginning of the Civil War. In response, Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteer soldiers to defend the Union. That call to arms pushed more Southern states to secede and join the Confederacy. Many Southerners believed they were fighting for their right to govern themselves. They compared Lincoln's actions to those of the British king during the American Revolution. To them, the war wasn't just about slavery, it was about resisting what they saw as unfair control by the federal government. Early Confederate armies were often made up of local volunteers. These men chose their own officers and fought with a strong sense of pride and purpose. They believed they were protecting their homes, rights, and a way of life they saw as under threat. To many in the South, the war was a second fight for freedom this time, from their own national government. And here comes the deal breaker. 1. The war didn't really end. When it ended, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in April 1865. Many people think this ended the Civil War, but fighting didn't stop right away. Some Confederate soldiers kept fighting for weeks or even months. They didn't want to give up and hoped they could still win or get better terms. The last Confederate general to surrender was Stand Watie, a Cherokee leader. He didn't surrender until June 23, 1865, over 2 months after Lee. Even after all the armies gave up, peace didn't come easily. The South was still angry and broken. During the time called Reconstruction, violence and hate continued. Some people in the South didn't accept the war's outcome. Groups used violence to attack black people and stop new laws meant to bring change. There were also fights over politics, land, and power. Even though the war was officially over, the country was not fully healed. Many people still felt angry, afraid, or uncertain. In some ways, the war continued in the form of protests, riots, and unfair treatment. The surrender ended the battles between armies, but the struggle over freedom and rights went on for years. The Civil War wasn't just about North versus South. It was about power, politics, and strange stories that history almost forgot. So what do you think really shaped the war? And which of these facts surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found these hidden truths fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories from America's past. And go ahead, click on the next video on your screen. There's plenty more history where that came from.